Moose, the perfect fit.
And also, it's a very difficult place to travel, isn't it? I mean, I'm sure you've traveled there a lot, and it's a place that a lot of the Sri Lankans relish to go to because you can put up a real fight. And kudos to this young team. We saw it in the last game as well. They did put up a real good fight. Even this game, despite scoring a below par score in the first innings, they did manage to put up a decent performance when it comes to bowling.
Absolutely, I think you were spot on there. It's not the easiest place to travel to. I mean, I've mentioned this before as well. Australia is a place you got to be mentally very strong. You got to give the Australians back, and that's how you perform there. Just because you just have a good technique, you won't survive there. You need to have the heart and the gut to succeed. And unfortunately, I don't see that much with this young team. You just needing some. I was just, seeing in the match, and I just didn't feel that we had enough leaders out there. And we're just going through the motions. We had just no one player who's going to put their hands up and fight it through. I mean, we know it's tough work with the pace and the bounce, but still, we are the young team. We are professional enough to adjust as soon as possible. But same mistake repeating for a while, as Estelle mentioned before. Batting has been a problem for a long time. It's a bad habit going forward. So I think something has to give in. Maybe some tough decisions has to be made because, if you're repeating the mistake at this level, just not good enough to compete.
Yes, we've spoken about batting woes. Now, despite this being a little bit gloomy for us because Sri Lanka have conceded the series, Australia has an unassailable lead of 3-0 in the series. What we're going to do now is, for the viewers, let's make it a little bit more lighter. Let us know in the comment section what your favorite moment of today's game was. I'm going to throw that question to both of you as well. Essie, I'll go with you first. What was your favorite moment in the game today?
Oh, that's a tough one, but I think I'm beginning to become a really big fan of Mahesh Theekshana. I think he's come a long way, had a great journey. So that first ball wicket definitely the moment of the match for me. Mostly just because I really like how far he's come and his story.
Exceptionally, yes, for sure. Mahesh Theekshana has come a long way. His hard work has paid off. And to some of our viewers, Estelle Vasudevan is a massive Australian fan. So I'm very glad that she picked Mahesh's wicket. She does support Sri Lanka when Sri Lanka plays against Australia, but she's a massive Australian fan. Ma, what was your favorite moment of the entire game?
Probably the same. First wicket of Mahesh Theekshana in the first ball itself. And probably the first stroke, what Pathum Nissanka played against Mitchell Starc, pace and bounce, front of the wicket, pull shot is something that even in the last game, the way he batted, especially against Mitchell Starc with his pace, it's not easy with a new ball on a bounce track. So young man making huge strides. So probably that, as well as the first ball wicket of Mahesh.
Oh, brilliant. And for me, of course, I think I can't argue with either one of you with your choices. Mahesh Theekshana's first ball wicket did give us a lot of hope, but for me, Chamira going down the ground to Hazelwood was brilliant because it did bring back the memory of that last ball boundary in the final game, which we managed to tie it out. And also, I wanted to ask you, as soon as I saw this in the game, have you bowled a ball in your entire career which was 3 meters high, like Starc did? have you bowled any ball like that?
I mean, I've bowled a couple which actually bounced. Trying to bowl a bounce. I remember during a club game trying to bounce and it went so high. Cricket keeper didn't have any idea or any chance for grabbing it. But this is something that I knew I saw. I mean, he was going for a slow ball. But to be honest, Mitchell Starc is hot and cold in this 2 games which he played. I don't think he's at his best yet. But yes, in the first over he swung, he pitched it up. But I just don't think Mitchell Starc is in top form. So that's where Australians are struggling a little bit with the new ball. I mean, Josh Shedler is bowling as best as he was before. Kane Richardson with a couple of wickets with the new ball. Pat Cummins was rested. So that's the leverage the Australian team has. They are resting their players. They're getting Ash and Agar to open the batting. they are just playing around with the team. That's how much confidence they have. Whereas we are still struggling to find the right combination, probably, right personnel, probably. So that's where the two teams' mentality. I mean, yes, it's 3-0, but it's more than that. It's more than that. When I say more than that, I don't think we have got the right team yet, and whether we are confident of bowling first, batting first. Even I think there is a huge doubt there how to win against Australia, whether to bowl first or bat first. So I just feel from outside, that's the feeling I get. I don't know about Estelle, but this is what I feel like being outside watching on TV.
Very interesting sentiments there, because you spoke about whether Sri Lanka have got the correct formula, and something, Estelle, that you did bring up of the chat was Kusal Mendis' inclusion at number 4 instead of Avishka Fernando. How sensible or how logical that was, because taking Kusal Mendis' previous T20I record, batting up at the top of the order and also batting in the middle order. But just take us through what might have been the logic behind bringing in Kusal Mendis, and whether you agree bringing him at number 4.
Well, the logic is, Sudarshana, that they don't have middle order players in that squad. I think we spoke about it in the previous games as well. The fact that this squad has so many opening options, that anyone who is brought in that middle order is actually just, having to adjust from a different role they've had success in. On Kusal Mendis' record, I think his overall record is far better opening the batting than it is coming from number 3 to number 6. But also in recent times, I think the last T20 he played in was in 2019, but in recent times his record is not good anywhere. So I think he was picked on this tour based on his domestic form, and domestic cricket he's been opening the batting. In the LPL we saw him playing a lot of attacking cricket and coming at the top of the order. So I don't know, I guess guys who do focus a lot on domestic cricket need to come up with some answers. So who are the middle order batters in Sri Lanka who need to get a look in, because at the moment it's a lot of top 1, 2, 3 batters who are then having to be shuffled around. We saw Sri Lanka at 4 in the last 2 games. Today he was at 3. Avishka Fernando, I think in the World Cup he was pushed down to 4, but has been frequently used as an opener. So they need to, I think, figure that out first of all. Whether if there are 5 good openers, you have to understand that you can't pick all 5. Someone has to miss out in order to accommodate a better middle order player, because I'm sure Farveez will be able to relate, like batting at number 4 and batting at number 6 are completely different roles. Similarly, opening the batting and then coming the middle order is another completely different thing that you have to do. So I think selection-wise, that's something that needs to be looked at more closely.
Yes, definitely. I think that's a problem that Sri Lanka has struggled with. That's what Maha did mention earlier as well. This is not the squad that we ideally should go with, because we have some massive holes in that squad. Maha, what would you have done different in team selection today, given the fact that we didn't have our best player currently, Wanindu Hasaranga, who's been a real headache to Australia? He's not available, unfortunately. He's tested positive, so he's not available. What would have been your selection for this team, for this game rather?
I mean, it's very easy to criticize the team, and you could have said if X was there, it was good. Y was there, it may be good. I mean, end of the day, the players who get the opportunity got to put their hands up. Simple as that. Players all know that World Cup is going to be happening in Australia. This is also rehearsal. These players are going to Australia and playing in those conditions, preparing for the tour coming up in October for the World Cup. So, as a professional player, what you got to understand is you grab the opportunity with both hands. And you have players like Kusal Janit-Perera, who's due to come after injury. We have Banu Rajapaksa, who just got through the fitness protocols. I mean, he's available for selection. So the players who have got the opportunity got to make use of it. Yes, what Estelle say, I agree there as well. Having openers batting at number 4, it's not going to happen, because simply batting at number 3, 4, 5 is a different art than opening the batting. So you need to have specific players there. So that's where the problem is. Domestic cricket and LPL, Kusal Mendis opens the batting, and the international team is bats at 4. So that's where the management and the selectors have to come to an agreement with the player. So these are the little problems that I see. I mean, if you have to rectify this as soon as possible, better for us. If not, we are going to struggle, and we will keep on talking about it. It's just not on in international level. Simple as that. So I think yes, there are players coming in after injury, after fitness protocols been hurdled. So I think those players who are outside must be itching to get in, because they all know that the players who are at the moment in the team are really struggling. I mean, it's very visible with the pace and the bounce. These batters are struggling a bit.
I think the question asked by one of our fans directed at Farveez Maharoof, why is Sri Lanka struggling with a lot of dot balls? I think that question was answered by Farveez with that explanation. Now, Sri Lanka's batting woes didn't stop at selections or bad shot selection. Today, in fact, Thamika Konnaratne's bat broke in half. I hope that it's not the same that he did get from Hardik. And this time around, I think Thamika will be able to add to his bat collection, given that he's selected in the IPL. He's flying to India, so he'll be able to go and collect some bats, premium bats in that.
One thing, Sudarshana, these days, these all players will get so much bat, they don't care how much bat it breaks. So don't worry about it. There will be plenty of bats in his cricketing bag.
Well, now, Estelle, something that lacked from this series was this was a series that was played in Australia. After 20 years, we did not hear the Papare music in the stands, and that's something that you miss when Sri Lanka go to play in Australia. But kudos to the Sri Lankan supporters in Canberra. Their spirits were not doused at Sri Lanka's low score, but we did hear some drumming and some singing in the stands. So kudos to the crowd in Canberra. And if anybody from Australia are joining us, Sri Lanka are going to play the next 2 games in at the MCG. I think that's where Sri Lanka, Farveez do add on to this, that's where Sri Lanka has the best fans, except for Sri Lanka, out in the world. Do you think we'll be able to expect some improvised Papare action at the MCG, Estelle?
I hope so. I hope so. But I mean, the crowds have been brilliant. Even in Sydney, I'm sure Farveez has had the experience of playing in those crowds, so he would be able to tell you what a big lift it would give players, particularly when you come into a country like Australia where it's tough and you're playing against a tough team. They were champions, and not many changes from that champion squad actually playing in this series. So it's a massive boost, and the fans have been fantastic. I mean, fan performance was better in this game than the batting, I guess.
The previous experience, what I have, I'll tell you one thing, that usually Melbourne is we call Little Sri Lanka. And once we played a one-day game, I remember there was a crowd for about 57,000, something like that. And there's about 50,000 Sri Lankans. So just goes to show the support we get at Melbourne. Yes, without Papare, is like there's nothing, no go. But still, the vocal voice will be heard in Melbourne for sure. Because as far as I know, most of the time when the Sri Lankan team goes there, there's a huge demand for passes, right? And there's so much friends and families who lives there who just wants to go out there and support the team. So they will come out in numbers. Not too sure about the protocols what Melbourne has when it comes to capacity of the crowd. But overall, I think whatever the capacity, I think Sri Lankans will fill it up. Papare will miss it, but I'm sure vocally, I think our spectators will not let that missing factor for the players. They'll give their 110%. I mean, it's been called the 12th ban in Melbourne for some number of years when Sri Lanka plays there.
Well, for Sri Lanka, nothing to lose in the series. So they hopefully will go out all guns blazing in at the MCG and gives fans something to cheer about. And I'm sure the fans will turn out in numbers. And okay, now another thing that I wanted to chat to both of you about. Now, Estelle, when Farveez was playing for Sri Lanka, we were maybe in school, Estelle. We were quite small.
That makes me look
And
so old. Don't say that. That makes me look so old.
so even since that time, you got to give it to the Aussie broadcasters. They find very innovative ways in bringing you cricket, and they find very innovative ways in showcasing cricket. Now, something both of us still chatted about was the fact that when somebody gets out on a golden duck, how the duck used to appear on the screen. That was brilliant. We enjoyed that in the previous game as well. This game, I was looking forward to seeing that in the first ball. I think the CG person was not ready to put that out. He missed out putting it out on the first ball. And also miking up the players. Glenn Maxwell was speaking to the commentators while playing, and that adds a different dimension to it. Talk us through how immersive this Australian broadcasting experience is.
Yeah, I think it's great because it's a point of view that we don't see as spectators, right? So when the fielder is in, and I've seen even occasions where the wicket keeper is mic'd up, and then whatever he's saying, he or she is saying, the batter can hear. So there can be a little bit of banter there as well. So it's very, I think, like you said, the ducks, those are things we grew up with, right? So obviously there's a lot of nostalgia attached to stuff like that. But yeah, and I like the little bit of insight they're getting from Russell Arnold as well, from the boundary line. The Garandias and all the little Sri Lankanisms there. Yeah, it's been good. It's interesting. They of course have the resources to do all of that and spend on stuff like that. But yeah, it really adds to the experience, particularly when it's a kind of a one-sided game.
Farveez, you've been in the middle. Now you are involved as a commentator of the game, broadcast of the game as well. What do you see? What can you add with the Russell Arnold sideline commentary? What is the color that's been added to the broadcasts?
I'm sure. I mean, if Russell was given opportunity to be in the studio, he'll add a lot of inputs in the commentary box. But unfortunately, he's been wanted more to give his point of view from the stand. So that's something new that even I'm looking at it. So I mean, Russell, they could utilize him much more if he's been in the comment box. But saying that, Russell comes up with brilliant innovation. So that's Russell for you, the Garandias and everything. So much to learn. Even when I started my commentary stint in 2019, is someone that helped me a lot to settle down. So it's a lot to learn from people like Russell. So I think at the moment they're underutilizing him by having him, as I see from the stands. But if he's in the com box, he'll add more inputs in the com box.
Oh, no doubt. I think all the Sri Lankan fans would agree that Russell Arnold is underutilized at the sidelines, and he's much better in the com box. Now, something interesting that we saw on the live telecast was that how Dinesh Chandimal was trapped in, and Brett Lee called it before Dinesh Chandimal was bowled out, and that's brilliant, isn't it? To be able to spot that and to see how Dinesh Chandimal was strapped on to playing that stroke and giving away his wicket.
Instincts, isn't it? Fast bowlers' instinct. I mean, that's what cricketers who are commentating, they know what's going to happen. I mean, maybe they won't be 100%, but most of the time they know this might happen at this occasion if he bowls in this length, that length, a slow ball, a fast, anything. So I reckon that's cricketers' instinct, especially the broadcaster. So I think Brett Lee was, just spot on as he is usually, because he's someone that I enjoy listening to.
Well, I think Estelle, I did the mistake of asking the recommendation of a fast bowler about a fast bowler. If I did that, maybe even an opening batsman, they'll have something different to say about the fast bowlers and their instincts. Estelle, now we've tried to keep this a little light because Sri Lanka did lose out this was the 13th game they lost on the trot to Australia. The last time we won in Australia and won against Australia was when Estelle delivered a miraculous innings. Now, in this game, Sri Lanka did put up a below par score, and there were four chances, although very quite difficult. They were chances that needed to be taken if we wanted to change something. Out of the chances, now Maxwell was put down thrice, and English was also put down on zero. Which one do you think was the closest chance, and which one do you think could have been held on to and would have made a difference?
In terms of making a difference, definitely if Maxwell had gone on zero, it would have been phenomenal for us. But again, like you mentioned, it was a really tough chance. Sri Lanka did well to get his hands to it. Of the four, I think the most gettable one was the one that Chanaka put down off Vanderse. I think he maybe misjudged the flight of the ball or something, and he dived when maybe he could have just moved and taken the catch. But like you mentioned again, all for tough chances. But in a match like this, you need to have a bit of luck where those just stick or they come straight to you or something like that. So unfortunately, things didn't go our way in that way. Like, I mean, if you look at the past game, we had Maxwell dropping two easy catches, like by his standards, simple catches. So those were like luck. That was the luck coming our way. Xtra 6, which maybe on another day Steve Smith would have palmed in without touching the rope. So today things didn't go our way when it came to stuff like that.
Well, fair enough. And also Jeffrey Vanderse coming in, Maha in place of Vanidhu Hasaranga. How did you see his return to international cricket? Vanderse had massive shoes to fill in coming in place of Vanidhu Hasaranga. But how would you rate his performance in today's game?
It was a like-to-like swap. I think he bowled decently. I mean, just that whenever leg spinner, when you have a score to defend such a low score, it's not going to be easy. With a wrist spinner, he's bound to get you wickets and bound to leak some runs as well. You've got to give that leverage. But unfortunately, I don't think Jeffrey had that luxury of having some runs behind his back. So overall, I think you can't fault him much. He bowled decently, okay. But overall, batting let us down, and once the batters don't put up a score, you got to expect these kind of results.
Estelle, Vanidhu Hasaranga not being available for this game and most probably for the rest of the series. His bunny, Finch would have been absolutely delighted. Vanidhu had made Finch his bunny because in the first two games, Finch had absolutely no answer. He must be delighted at the fact that Vanidhu might not trouble him again.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that was, I think, a walking wicket against Vanidhu, with due respect to Finch, because I think I saw a stat in the last game. Hasaranga has bowled 15 deliveries to him and dismissed him 3 times. So, like, I mean, something with Finch and leg spinners, I guess. Today also he was dismissed by Vanderse. So, I'm sure he'll be relieved that he has a bit of leeway. Hopefully, someone like Xtra or Vanderse can step into that role and kind of get in on him. I think Vanderse, like Farveez mentioned, it's difficult because he's just coming into the side after a long layoff. He did play against Zimbabwe, but in T20 cricket, he hasn't played for a while. It's a big confidence thing, isn't it, Farveez? Like, even with Vanidhu, we've seen that where, once he gets into the game and he gets a little bit of confidence in him, we will see a better performance, I think, from someone like Vanderse.
Yeah, I think with Vanderse's career at the moment, he's 31 or 32. I mean, he's coming back after a while. He knows that, he has limited chances. Whenever he gets a chance, he got to prove himself. So it's added pressure on him. I mean, the batters don't put up, as I say, enough runs. It's enough. There's more pressure on him, and his pressure piling up to deliver it, because being the wrist spinner, he's bound to get 2 wickets. So I think overall, it's big shoes to fill in. Yes, Vanidhu is somebody that who has done tremendously well ever since he made his debut. So, again, good to have backup options. Vanderse, I think, a very good option to have as a backup for Vanidhu. So overall, he'll be missed in the rest of the series, but as series gone, it's very important to look after his health and well-being and get him right and get him fit for the all-important Indian series.
Well, there you go. I have gotten a message. I'm not allowed to mention who sent it to me. They've asked me why Farveez Maharoof looks a little too serious on camera. Whether you've gotten a warning from ICC to try and be serious and be your professional.
Oh my God! I mean, I'm not being serious. I'm just at home isolated for a while because of protocols. So I think it's just getting into me now. That's all I can say.
Right. Okay.
Normally,
Before we.
Normally, I'm not that serious. You guys know. So just that, that's how it is.
All right. Before we go, I think it's only right. Estelle, I'd like you and Maharoof, to try and predict the next team that we will have at the MCG. Of course, it will depend on the conditions on the day. They will have to take a look at the pitch and how that fares up. But what do you think? What will be your mix given the performance of the first three games? Estelle, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I think there might be a forced change with Tushara, right? Because he walked off midway through his second over with what looked like a side strain. So maybe Lahiru Kumar gets looking to the team there. Opening and number 4 remain, I think, the questions again, whether I don't think Kusal Mendis will get dropped because he played only one game, but maybe they might see a change with Danushka Gunatilaka. I think guys like Lienege should be given an opportunity. I mean, it's his first tour and the series is gone. Overall, Australia's, I think, coming into this series, the mentality was, at least from my point of view, was that it's a learning experience. So maybe it's a good chance to give as many players in that squad as possible a bit of a go in those conditions.
Maha, how would you get your mix for the next game?
Yeah, I think I completely agree with Estelle there. I think Janit Lienege deserves a go. He was in the Zimbabwe series, but unfortunately because of COVID couldn't make it to the squad. So since he is available, just give it a go and see where he is at, because his series is already gone. See how he is, and possibly only change I would see in the top order. I see Charita Flanka gets another go. Dinesh Chandimal, the way he bats, I think he has to be batting. As if Janit Lienege comes in, possibly Kusal Mendis pushing up to the opening slot where he usually loves to bat. So that's an option. And Lahiru Kumar for sure for Nuwan Tushar, because MCG does move a bit and it has that bounce as well. So that might favor the faster bowler. So that's another option too. So those are the options I see. Maybe rest Dushmantha Shamira one game. There's 2 games coming up, and possibly have a look at Shiran Fernando in one of the games. I mean, just to give youngsters a go, because the series is already gone.
Well, we might then see some debutants coming out in Melbourne, and what a place to get their international debut, isn't it? In at the MCG in front of appreciative Sri Lankan crowd, and we hope that Sri Lanka will be able to try and make a real game in the next 2 games. Thank you very much, Estelle and Maha, for joining us for this chat. It's been an absolute pleasure, as always, on the Moose T20 Xtra. Moose, ThePapare.com's coverage partner, has been amazing. They are the partner for Sri Lanka cricket for this tour as well. And thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to meeting you after the next game.
Mulu lokhe mavela undu yati kuru